Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paribrajagacharya Asto Tarasati Srimad Divine Grace Sabai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nichilal Pravishnom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajagacharya Asto Tarasati Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're continuing reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 23, text number 18 and 19. And do we know what one is on the board? 18 and 19. So 19 begins with Chakshumat. Is that 19 that's there? 18. Oh, are they both there? Okay. There you go. 18, text 18 and 19. Dvashi Vudruma Dehalya Batam Vajra Kapatavat Shikaresh Vindranileshu Hema Kumbhair Adhishritam. Let's just chant that one and then we'll see where we go from there. Dvashu Vidruma Dehalya Batam Vajraj Kapatavat Shikharesh Vindranileshu Hema Kumbhair Adhishritam. Trayashu Vidruma Dehalya Batam Vajra Kapatavat Shikharesh Vindrayenleshu Hema Kumbhair Adhishritam. Dvashud Vidruma Dehalya Batam Vajra Kapatavat Shikaresh Vindranelishu. Ladies, please. Dvashu Vidruma Dehalya Dvashu Vidruma Dehalya Batam Virja Kapatavat Shikarish Vindra Lilishu Hema Kumbera Dishtratam. Dvashu. In the entrances, Vidruma of coral, Dehalya with a threshold, Batam beautiful, Vajra bedecked with diamonds, Kapatavat having doors, Shikharishu on the domes, Indranileshu of sapphires, Hema Kumbhai with gold pinnacles, Adhishritam crowned. Translation. The palace was very beautiful with its coral thresholds at the entrances and its doors bedecked with diamonds. Gold pinnacles crowned its domes of sapphire. Text number 19. Chakshushmat padamargai kriyae vajra bitishu nirmitai jushtam vichitra vaitanyae maharhair hematoranai. I'll continue. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. With the choicest rubies set in its diamond walls, it appeared as though possessed of eyes. It was furnished with wonderful canopies and greatly valuable gates of gold. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Artistic jewelry and decorations giving the appearance of eyes are not imaginary. Even in recent times, the Mughal emperors constructed their palaces with decorations of jeweled birds with eyes made of valuable stones. These stones have been taken away by the authorities, but the decorations are still present in some of the castles constructed by the Mughal emperors in New Delhi. The royal palaces were built with jewels and rare stones resembling eyes, and thus at night they would give off reflective light without need of lamps. Om Agana Timarandasya Ghananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master has forced me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto His lotus feet. Hare Krishna. We have a little saying that we got from somewhere. Life's like trying to get comfortable on a cactus. So I'm feeling a little bit that way. You got to get the mic just right, but if you get it here, you can't get there. But don't worry, I'll sort it. No problem. Thank you. It's quite a thing, as usual. Doesn't go in. Okay, we're all good. 19. So one might ask the question why we're discussing such subject matters as rubies and jewels and castles flying through the sky and so on. One answer might be that the Srimad Bhagavatam is revealing to us the superlative nature of the higher realms of existence. We are here in this modern age thinking often that this is pretty much what's available, but there's so much more available. It's a little bit like an insect under a rock. The insect under the rock looks up and sees the bit of the rock above its head, etc., and can't quite figure that if somebody lifts the rock up, then there's a whole other existence beyond its life under the rock. Frog in the well, Srila Prabhupada spoke about the frog in the well. It hears that one of its friends hops off, jumps off, whatever they do, and goes to visit the Pacific Ocean, comes back and suggests to the other frog in the well that you wouldn't believe what I saw. It's this massive amount of water. And the small frog in the well says, is it bigger than where we are now? Yeah, it's bigger, a lot bigger, so much bigger. He said, 3 times, 5 times bigger than this well. And this way the frog's trying to get an idea of what's going on. Can't get it, that there's so much more. So here we are in the human form of life, in the middle of the Kali Yuga, flying through space. and science suggests that it's just like a speck of dust. Even modern science sees that. Bhagavatam's already explained this thousands of years ago. So the Bhagavatam is introducing again and again, and we'll see this in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it kind of loops through a whole explanation of a specific story, and then it comes back again to another story and goes and explains. And again the Bhagavatam is explaining to help us come out of our very, very small vision of what's real. Srimad Bhagavatam is establishing reality distinguished from illusion for the benefit of everyone. What's that verse? What's the beginning of the Bhagavatam? Second, maybe? Oh, so rusty. Who's got the first word? Anybody got the first word? It might start us off. Dhamma projita kaitavatra. Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. Like that. Hare Krishna. Thanks, Alanath. It was really nice having kirtan with Alanath Prabhu and then Prabhu this morning at Mangalarti, and very sweet, very sweet. There's other horizons apart from New Zealand. We've been living in New Zealand for many years, and sometimes you think that's the reality, but there's so much more going on. Just like, yeah, it's amazing. We're covered by the rocks, or we're covered by the illusions and concepts. People in Tokyo are going on right now. They do not think at all about what we are doing right now. You live in Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane or Murwillumbah, and we hardly give a thought to anything other than our specific surroundings. You Govardhana and Murwillumbah, maybe the Gold Coast, and then occasionally Brisbane and maybe Sydney. Who thinks of Sydney? Not much. So this is our conditioned existence. And Bhagavatam is encouraging us to tamasi mai jyotirgama, to come from the darkness to the light and see your actual position. The personalities that we're discussing now, Kadharma Muni and Devahuti, are two supremely exalted personalities. And I was looking last night through the previous verses in this chapter, and I'm just going to read through them a little bit. It begins in the first verse of this chapter. It speaks about the qualities of a great lady. And there's an ancient word, I don't know if you've heard of it before, it's called chastity. It's like, oh, what a word. How could you say such a word? What does that mean? It's an archaic word of an archaic kind of so-called civilization. And if you introduce it pretty much anywhere out, it's hard enough to introduce it here in the temple room, or to speak of anywhere else in the outside. Chastity, what does that mean? Who do you have to be chaste to? Oh, the next thing it discusses, presents to your husband. Forget it. Forget it. Don't give me that old stuff. The exalted wife and the exalted husband, both fully qualified. So in this first verse, it says, chaste woman served constantly, and the key point that will come through in these verses is served constantly. And again, it's like, oh, chaste woman serving constantly. Don't want to hear about that stuff. With great love. This is the Bhagavatam speaking husband, wife, great love. Oh, you mean lust? No, it says love. There's a bit of a difference. Second verse says, served with intimacy and great respect. Controlled senses. Devahuti had controlled senses. And it's explained, served with her husband with great intimacy and great respect, with controlled senses, and she spoke with love. Again, it's been used in the second verse, with love and sweet words. I remember I was with Mahavishnu Swami, the old Gujarati Maharaj. Yeah, he was a very dear friend and wonderful follower of Srila Prabhupada. And we were in Calcutta, and it was a preaching program, and we were there, and I was so overwhelmed by the interactions of the men and the women. I was just watching how they interacted. The ladies were like princesses or queens. They were filled with golden saris and jewelry, very beautiful, very gentle, and they kind of floated through this very palatial type house. And the men were very appreciative of the woman, but the culture was so beautiful. They just interacted so well. The third verse in this chapter speaks about giving up lust, pride. That's Devahuti. She gave up lust, pride, envy, greed, sinful activities, vanity, and served her very powerful husband. Fourth verse and fifth verse together. She expected great blessings from her husband, and by her service she grew emaciated, became very thin, didn't care for her body in so many ways. And her husband, overcome with compassion, he spoke in a voice choked with great love. So this love factor keeps coming up, that there's a lot of love in Vedic culture, love for children, love for ladies, love for the husband, love for the animals, it's a different kind of culture. So he's speaking in a choked voice, and he's just spoken to the Supreme Personality of Godhead a little earlier in this story. The Lord appears to Kadama Muni, and he said, I've made an arrangement for you. He understands. The Lord is described as Bhavagrahi Janardan, which means that he knows the heart, the bhava of the heart. And he understood fully that Kadama was desirous to marry. So Kadama was so powerful a yogi, so powerful a devotee, that the Lord was so much in tune with his desires that he came and appeared before Kadama Muni and said, don't worry, I got it covered. So it was a real friendship mood between the Lord and Kadama Muni. He said, I've got a girl just suitable for you. She will be here in a day or so. And the arrangement was that who is the father and mother? Swambhuva Manu, like that. And they brought their daughter to Kadama Muni. So, next verse, Kadama Muni he was astonished by her devotion. He was overwhelmed by her devotion to him, that she would just neglect. She was a queen, but she neglected everything and was totally focused. She accepted, and this, in another place in the Bhagavatam it says that the wife should accept the husband as good as Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Wow. Prabhu's up the back laughing like he's going, wow, you're pushing it too far, Jai Sheila. Isn't it? Now guys, settle down. The woman should see the husband, but the husband shouldn't say, yes, I am Vishnu. Who was it that in Krishna's pastimes had the four arms, Pundraka? Yeah. The husbands think, better stick another couple of arms on here because my wife thinks I'm Vishnu. No. It's not gross like that. It's very, very subtle. The whole culture is there. So he is astonished excuse me, how wonderful his beautiful, chaste wife is, and that she's served with great devotion and excellent loving service. Those are the words that Srila Prabhupada has chosen to describe this part of the Bhagavatam. In verse 7, Kadama Muni offers the blessings of freedom from fear and lamentation. So he said he was so pleased that I will be able to make arrangements so that you will be freed from the greatest sufferings of this world, which is fear. We're always fearful in this world. Just even that noise makes you fearful. It's like, oh, what's happening? Immediately with fear. I remember sitting in a doctor's surgery once, and there was about 20 people in this large surgery waiting to go in, and all of a sudden a door banged. Just the wind caught it and banged, and everyone jumped. We didn't know. And it just clicked to me how fearful we are. We're sitting there, and in a moment we're struck with fear. So to become free from fear was the offer of Kadama Muni. I'll make that arrangement. I promise you. He was so pleased. Then it goes on to explain Kadama Muni, and he then shifts a little bit the mood. It says, what is the value of enjoyments other than the Lord's grace? So this fearlessness and free from lamentation can only be given by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through His agent, through the spiritual master, through the acharyas, through the husband. The ladies also, they have their position. They give their grace and mercy to their children. They can give great mercy and bring the greatness out of their children. In Kadama Muni says, all material achievements are annihilated simply by a movement of the eyebrows of Lord Vishnu. So all these material achievements that we might be able to accomplish in this life, just a movement of the Lord's eyebrows, everything can be completely taken. This brings perspective, and I've already mentioned that part, the bigger picture, the reality distinguished from illusion. But hardly one person endeavors for this. Bhagavad Gita says, Manushanam sahasrishu kasyat yatiti siddhaya. Out of thousands and millions of persons, hardly one person will endeavor for perfection. So it's not the common person. We are training to become Mahatmas. We are Mahatmas, taking shelter of the internal energy of Krishna. And it's not an easy transition to transition from taking shelter of the illusory energy in all its aspects and finding a little pleasure and a little happiness and then being thwarted and then trying again, making an adjustment and then trying again and again. We think that is where we'll find the satisfaction that we're searching for. But Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam describes it's not the case. One who is not in transcendental consciousness can neither have a controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there's no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? Bhagavad Gita describes like that. So we want the happiness, but to get happiness we have to be peaceful. If you want to be peaceful, you have to have a controlled mind. If you've got a controlled mind, you have to have steady intelligence to fix your intelligence in this path of devotional life. So that's the choice we all take. We all make that choice when we first shave your head, or you put on a sari, or you do whatever you do. We make that choice to attempt to take shelter of the internal energy of Krishna and move away from the external energy of Krishna, thinking that we could get shelter there. So that's very, very rare. So Devahuti then in a choked voice, again, choked voice full of love. Devahuti spoke in a choked voice because of great humility and love. So we'll make the comment that Kadama Muni is speaking with a choked voice full of love, and his wife is speaking with a choked voice full of love. So it's the idea. My wife and I present some Grihastha seminars and stuff, and in that part of the seminar we explain what the name of the first Grihastha seminar that was presented in ISKCON. The title of that seminar was called the hopes and horrors of household life. That was the first. It was presented by a dear friend, sannyasi. Can you imagine? It was presented by a sannyasi, and that was the title. I won't mention Prabhu's name, the Maharaji's name, but it was interesting. Somehow or other, we were talking just last week. I haven't spoken to him for many, many years. We happened to be talking, and he brought it up. He'd asked me to make some comment for a book. He's writing a book on Vanaprastha ashram. So many years ago, he said, Jai Shila, he said, I've been trying to convince the grihastas that they should take sannyas, because it says in Shastra you should take sannyas. He said, but I've pretty much given up on that. He said, I think if I could get them to take vanaprastha, so he's focusing very much on a practical person to take vanaprastha. So why was I saying that? Who can make the connection? Thank you. Well done. That wasn't just a teacher thing. I definitely needed help there. Thank you. That was good. So that was the first Grihasta course, the hopes and horrors of household life. And then somebody thought, well, we should do better than that. We can make another one. So it was a Grihasta this time, and they came up with the next one. And wait for it, the title for that one was Survival in the Grihasta Ashram. It was still pretty dismal. You could survive and come out the other end realizing that it was all Maya. Spit on the thought. Yeah, often that verse is quoted. When I think of, anyway, you know that verse, possibly. Then Burjan Prabhu came to me one day. We were living in India at the time, in Vrindavan, and he said, Prabhu, why don't you put together a Grihasta seminar? So I thought about it for some time, and we came up with another title, and that was Success in the Grihasta Ashram. Not that at all my wife and I are Mr. and Mrs. Success. Doesn't mean that at all, believe us. Believe me, just ask my wife. But it seemed to fit better with Srila Prabhupada's explanation of 4 ashrams. And he said it very emphatically. He said, Brahmachari ashram. You know that? How Prabhupada said? Brahmachari ashram, Grihasta ashram, Vanaprastha ashram, and Sannyas ashram. They're all places where spiritual life can be cultivated, full of love, full of appreciation, full of nurturing the greatness in each other. And it's not just the husband and wife, but the children also. So the atmosphere should be filled with bhakti, with Krishna consciousness. Now, anyway, it's a big subject matter actually, isn't it? It's got so many aspects to it. So we can't imitate this. We can't imitate these great personalities from bygone age, but we can get the clue of how we can pick up whatever we can according to our existential position. Sometimes we may get married and the arrangement may not work out so very well. So, as I said, it's a big subject matter, how to deal with our existential situation, things that happen in life. I'm bouncing around a little bit, but please indulge me. I was watching the fire this morning in the corner, and I was getting inspired, because in the fire kept going just about out. And then somebody came up and figured out how to fan the spark. And then it kept going in and out for maybe 6 or 8 or 10 times. I saw someone approaching and trying to keep it going. So I was thinking, life is like that. Sometimes we're overwhelmed with our situation. This happens, that happens, things don't go right, so many challenges and so on. But we just keep fanning the spark, build the fire again. And the idea is we get to the last breath of our life, and hopefully we've managed to fan the spark around that time. And we're not at the fire's just about to go out and you're in an absolute shambles. Whatever our situation, it can be revived, it can be revitalized. Sometimes you have to move on. Prabhu, you were here before. Remember, you were here in New Govardhana, so you moved on from Melbourne for various reasons, somehow or other, came to Govardhana, and then it was good, and then it goes a bit wobbly, something happens. Then you have to consider what to do. Should I stay? Yeah, okay. And you try, and then sometimes it's good to move, sometimes it's better not to move, sometimes you stay in a place for 50 years and you don't move anywhere. And we wish there was a blueprint. You know, where's the blueprint for success? The blueprint is that you have the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the Bhagavatam, the Association of Devotees, Srila Prabhupada's guidance. We stick with that blueprint, and whatever life chucks at us, or whatever we invite into our life, we continue. And this quality of the heart, I don't know, what time is it? Hold on, Jai. We're okay. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Oh, it's right up there. Sorry. Funny, eh? I couldn't see that when I was saying, there's a clock in the DD room and I'm trying to see that one, but it's right there. We might open up for some interaction in a few minutes. I'm thinking like that possibly that could be a good idea, because there's a lot of younger, middle, and older devotees in the room, so we've got a few children, one or two. They might ask a question. Who knows? Might have a comment. Pardon me. So Krishna, another little point that comes. Krishna is not envious of us. Whatever we choose, Krishna says, "Akama savakama va moksha kama udarati." If you may be filled with material desires, you may have no material desires, you may desire liberation. Krishna is not worried. He's like the best parent you could ever expect. He just loves us unconditionally, and whatever you want, he's willing to try and provide it for you so that you can fulfill your desires. You want to function independently of me. I'm not that happy about that, but hey, I get that's what you want to do, so here you go. And he allows us to do it. He's just there. He comes with us as super soul, and he accompanies us the whole way. And he's just waiting for us to turn to him. And he's not envious. So Kadama Muni, somehow or other, the Bhagavatam often it's intermeshed with the Leela of the Lord. He's going to appear as Kapila Dev. And he has to make an arrangement. So he is accepting Kadama and Devahuti so that he can appear like that. So it's intermeshed, the whole pastime, with the Lord's Leela. And we hear ultimately that Kadama, I think it was, someone was making that point the other day, that he walked away at the right time. So he's filled with love. It's a paradox too. In devotional life, we're told that you've got to be the first one in Nectar of Instruction, isn't it? One of the points there. We have to be enthusiastic, but we have to be patient. It's quite a tricky one, isn't it? You've got to be enthusiastic, but you've got to be patient. We're told that you should be very grave in spiritual life, but you should be jolly. It's like, why? How do you kind of manage that? I'm either going to be grave or I'm going to be jolly. We want an answer, and in material life, the answer should be yes or no. In spiritual life, it's not. It can be both yes and no. So it's another dimension, this spiritual existence. So Krishna is not envious. He allows us to come. I think there's one nice story, which I don't tell, but I know it's there. Was it Madhu Mangala that wanted to try on Krishna's peacock feather? Yeah, Madhu Mangala. So he was thinking one day that, I'd like to try Krishna's peacock feather on. Out of complete innocence, just innocence and curiosity. And he tried on Krishna's peacock feather. Oh, it looks pretty good, that. And then who was it? Pralamba was it that came? Or who was that? Keshi demon. So the Keshi demon had been informed that The one you want to get is that little boy that wears the peacock feather in his head. So, in case you looked at, who was it? Madhu Mangala, and thought, you are the one. And Madhu's like, hey, take your peacock feather back. Krishna, you can deal with it. I can't deal with this. We're all a little bit like Madhu Mangal. We've, out of innocence, just like a child wants to imitate their parent. There's a little envy, that tiny little bit of envy. It's an innocent envy. They envy their mother, say they want to cook. Mom's cooking, the little girl or a little boy. I want to cook. I want to do it. The mother knows you can't do it because you're only little, you're only small. You can't do this stuff. But they provide a facility. The little child gets some mud and puts it in and plays and thinks that they're cooking. They're happy. So here we are, trying on the peacock feather in the material world. And Krishna's just waiting. Come on, come on. How long are you going to stay here? It's a long time you've been gone. So he's introducing in the Bhagavatam the qualities that have to be assimilated somehow or other. We have to develop love. If you're a brahmachari, you can give your love. You don't have to limit your love to one woman and 3 or 4 or 2 or 1 children. If you have a big heart, brahmachari and sannyas means your heart is so loving that you can give your love to many, many people. Grihastha means you might not have that capacity right now, but you can give your love to your wife, give your love to your children, and then expand it out as much as you can within that ashram. Give your love to the cows, give your love to as much as you can in your preaching and like that. So it's spiritual life's all about love. And we can't go back home, back to Godhead without developing these qualities. So it's a bit of a challenge, but that's what we're up for. We're up for that challenge to develop the qualities so that we can go back home. And if we haven't got it together quite, then Krishna is so kind that it's suggested, or he says, that you'll take birth again in a position where you're able to be trained. It's like a finishing school. They used to have something called a finishing school to rub off the rough edges. So our devotional life might be a bit still rough around the edges. We've developed so somewhat on the path of devotional service. So Krishna will make the arrangement, hey, you go to finishing school in your next life. You take birth in a very exalted situation devotionally, and you can fine-tune and prepare yourself to make that complete leap back home, back to Godhead. So it's all good. We've joined this, and we picked up a little mantra of modern times, but it's definitely come from ancient times. The person was asked success. This man was he was a paratrooper in the American Air Force, and he'd smashed his knees, and he was in a wheelchair, and it was said by the doctors, you'll never walk again, so you have to get used to it. He became super fat, like huge, because his only pleasure in life was to eat, and he became fat. And he managed to turn it round. It's an amazing video, actually. Shows you this man. Totally jaws away out here, massive wheelchair, never walk, and he managed to turn the whole thing round. In this video, it's very powerful. It shows you the gradual progress that he made until he was able to walk again. Then he began to run, and then he lost all his weight. He was not quite as thin as me, but nearly. He was and able to stand on one foot and lift the other foot up in the sky through yoga and so on. He's holding it way up here. And they asked, he said, if you could explain, how did you do this? He said in 3 words, start, don't, start, don't, stop. Start, don't stop. So in our devotional life, we start, but there's this wrong and that's wrong, and I don't like him and I don't like her, and she said this and he did that, and he should be changed, and he should be all this stuff's going on. Don't stop. Don't stop. Hare Krishna mantra is there for us. So I could go into other things and try and get other things going, but I think we'll leave 10 minutes or so. Any reflections on anything in this whole story about Kadama and Devahuti, or anything we discussed this morning? Any point that you'd like to just reflect? Don't give a whole lecture, but whatever's there, and we can see if we can deepen the conversation a little bit. Thanks, Mataji.
Just a little quick one. When you were mentioning about how the sannyas was encouraging everyone, or the grihastas then, to move on to the sannyas ashram, and then he decided to go to Vanapras. I can't remember the exact words, but we all know that little flip calendar of Prabhupada's sayings. There's a calendar that you can turn over.
Yep.
There's one in there that actually Prabhupada does say, so I can't quote which lecture comes from, but Prabhupada says if you have a supportive wife in Krishna consciousness, there is no need to take the sannyas order.
My wife and I are so attached, we use that verse every time.
And it's actually...
We've already, just pause for a second, because I was saying that to this Maharaj when we were talking, and I said, we all took sannyas. Ladies, men, we took sannyas. Sannyas means you walk away. All of us walked away. We walked away from our career, we walked away from our bank account. I remember Rugrashava saying to me, please take this $10. We had nothing. We had a house, we sold it, gave it to the temple, gave it to Prabhupada via Guru Kripa Maharaj. Gave up our job, gave up our careers, gave up our friends. It was sannyas. We all did it. So we already took sannyas, but we've got to keep it going. So you can take the sannyas, but to maintain it is you can have secondary attachments and all the rest of it. But nice point, Mataji, the point that you were making. Do you want to elaborate at all? Please continue. Yes. Yes.
They just had that fixation, hearing about
Absolutely. Yeah. What was that last thing you said? Keep on going. What was the word you used? Oh, each day. You said it so, each day. I thought, what's that word? Each day. Yeah. And whatever our situation. And you can condemn someone, oh, they got remarried. That's not what Prabhupada said. I've seen devotees, we don't encourage remarriage, etc., but many great devotees have had that experience. They got remarried and they were fine. And they did well and they performed their service. Obviously, we say to Krishna, please excuse whatever, but I'm still here serving you. So that's the main point, whatever our situation. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Oh, and pause if you can. You reminded me of that little calendar. So, anyway, I won't go there. But there's a real nice one that Prabhupada speaks in that calendar also. I will try and recapture. He says, it's in Vrindavan, 1971, it's the 9th of November. You can look that one up. He said, everyone is struggling to gain something that they do not possess. And they are lamenting for that which they have lost. But when he or she themselves realize that there's nothing to gain and there's nothing to lose, that is called Brahmabhuta. That is the Brahman platform. So it's a real nice one that Prabhupada says. And Kadama Muni is saying, what is the value of all the enjoyments other than the Lord's grace? That's the only real thing. Everything else comes, stays for a little time and disappears, including our body. So the Lord's grace is what's available. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Very nice class,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
I remember it was around 2015 when I first committed to the Brahmachari ashram. I went up to Brahmacharis in there. It was like my first, I think it was like my second day. He gave me the Brahmachari handbook. I don't know if have you read that before?
No, I've never been a
It's
brahmachari.
it's a small orange one. Is it still in there? Yeah. So I got that on my second day, and that just overwhelmed me so much because it just had all that strong, content from the scripture.
About staying
Just
brahmachari.
really heavy, yeah. It was really heavy. But when you're new, I was fresh.
Yeah.
I just remember being so overwhelmed. But it took time as I stayed in the ashram for many, many years. I took time and I adjusted. But I remember being so bewildered, so overwhelmed, but I adjusted.
So you adjusted to wearing white?
No, I actually became a brahmachari after that. But I just adjusted to when you're new, when you first come to Krishna consciousness and you begin to hear some of these points, which are within the scripture, which were highlighted within the Brahmachari handbook. That was difficult for me to understand as a new devotee.
How to function.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that point up.
Yeah.
Again, it gets a little story going. I was convinced when I first came along that anyone that was wearing a white dhoti, that they weren't listening to the Bhagavatam class. I would sit there every morning and I would just hanker to be with these completely renounced people. And then one day, cut the long story short, one of the devotees pulled me aside and said, "Look, son," he was 6'6". So he was a little bit older than me. He says, "Look, son, you came along with that lady who you brought to Krishna consciousness, so you should look after her." And I share this many times. It was like I had a big hot air balloon and someone just went pop in the balloon, and it was such a relief. I could feel it. It just went and I realized, wow, like you, I was completely bewildered by the whole kind of energy. And then my wife finally got a sense that I was still a human being in some small way, and I started to kind of try and be a bit more. It was still a struggle for her to hang in with me. I was still pretty gung-ho, kind of back to John. Wow. But yeah, so it's completely dangerous. I nearly lost the other half. So yeah, fanaticism. So we've got to be fanatic about Krishna consciousness, but not fanatic about how we get bewildered and confused about what Krishna consciousness is. Okay, any reflections? Something that's okay? Well, we can finish on time for prasadam, the most important thing in the day. There was I will finish it. We've got 2 minutes. I just brought up another thought. We were at a conference in Germany many years ago. It was something. Anyway, it was a conference, GBC kind of thing, and the person who was facilitating the conference was a man called Sefton Davies. He was the father of Sonaka Rishi. Anyway, it was his father. He was a top facilitator, and he was amazed. He said, "I've never been with a group that focus their attention on lunch and breakfast and dinner. It's everything they want to organize is around that." So it's connecting with Krishna. Don't think it's mundane. Again, this morning, someone came with the perfume stick, put it on, and I just got that. I thought, wow, we can connect with Krishna through our nose, we can connect through our ears, the tongue, they're singing our song, Get Off Jai Shila, Hare Krishna. We'll finish there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki